How did we go from this to this? Streaming was supposed to be the solution. So how did it become the problem?
You were the chosen one! Bring balance to the force! Not leave it in darkness!
It wasn't long ago that you needed a cable box to watch the best shows on TV. Around a decade ago, things really started to get out of hand when it came to TV pricing and programming. Not only did you need to rent a cable box, you'd need to pay additional fees for the channels you wanted to watch. You want nature content? That'll be $10 a month for the Docs and Dogs package. You want children's programming for your kids? That'll be another $10 a month for the Lots of Tots package. And that's not even counting specialty channels like HBO. But we don't count that.
It's not TV, it's HBO.
With thousands of channels and incredible shows like Breaking Bad forcing our hand to subscribe to pricey packages, watching all the best content became unaffordable for most, leading us to rely on other means. But just when we thought all was lost, an unexpected hero emerged: Netflix. Once a mail-order DVD rental service, Netflix was a startup company offering a very big solution. For one low price, you got access to hundreds of shows and movies over the web. As long as your internet was fast enough, you could stream hours of content. Sure, the content at first wasn't the greatest, but it was freedom. Freedom from TV schedules, freedom from debilitating bills, and freedom from even needing a TV at all. Unlike traditional TV, you could play content whenever you wanted, wherever you wanted. No waiting until 11 p.m. to catch your favorite show just to find out they're airing a rerun of the night before. This was the future, and we binged it. Things really took off when Netflix released its first original series, Lilyhammer. What the f is Lilyhammer? I guess it really started with its second show, House of Cards. Created by David Fincher, the director behind Social Network, House of Cards was a huge hit for the streaming network, winning awards left and right. It would be the first in a string of commercial and critical hits for the streamer, proving that traditional TV wasn't the only way to produce high-quality content. But there was one other key piece of the puzzle that separated Netflix content: the binge. Bingeable might be just another buzzword in the lexicon of advertisers now, but when Netflix first started dropping entire seasons all at once, it was a game changer. I'm sorry, but if you try to tell me you didn't watch the first season of Stranger Things in a single weekend, I will not believe you. And honestly, The Office would not be where it is today without its bingeable years on Netflix. Looking back, Netflix was the perfect partner. It didn't judge us for watching all 3 seasons of Avatar: The Last Airbender for the 3rd time that year. It was okay with us sitting in our underwear all weekend telling ourselves we'll do our taxes after just one more episode. And it was even there when we brought a cute person over and needed some background noise while we chilled. So where did it all go wrong? How did we end up needing multiple subscriptions, paying more every year, and getting lower quality content? Well, as it turns out, it has a lot to do with the death of Blockbuster. Streaming has impacted Hollywood in a way that cannot be overstated. It changed everything, but the convenience of streaming has come at a cost, or rather, 2 costs: the production cost and the human cost. And that's not even getting into how fractured the streaming industry has gotten, especially in smaller markets like Canada, where we are. Let's start with the latter. The writer's strike in Hollywood has been eye-opening in many ways, but one thing that's become very apparent is that our current production model isn't sustainable. Most shows and movies require dozens of crew members, from writers and directors to gaffers and grips. All of those crew members are relying on the production to pay their wages, so when a project wraps for the season, they need to look for more work. That's the way it has always worked, and why landing an ongoing series was the dream job. If a series is airing 24 episodes, that's anywhere from half a year's work to an entire year, depending on the scale of the production. But if it's only filming 10 episodes, that's a much shorter contract. And if all of the episodes are launching at once, that can be crunched even further. This is the case for more and more series these days. While we don't want to go back to the days of 24-hour-long episodes per season, some of us do, but we can understand the anxiety of being unable to find work for the majority of the year after the series wraps production, especially for less lucrative creative roles like writers. When Netflix first started airing original content, a series would last for multiple seasons, often getting up to 4 or even 6 years of runtime. But as times changed, the company invested in more and more projects, and the number of seasons a show might get has gone down significantly. And it only gets worse when you look at the way the writers on projects are compensated. If you work on a traditional TV series, even years after the project was wrapped, you'll still be paid residuals for your work every time the show is aired. If you write for a sitcom and it blows up, you'll be receiving checks for the rest of your life. But that doesn't exist in the streaming space. If you write a series, the streamer writes you a single check, and that's the end of it. even if the series goes on to become a smash hit. For a while, streaming opened the door for more creatives to produce the unique series they've always wanted. At the peak of Netflix production, we were seeing more diverse voices and content than on traditional TV. But in reality, the only voices in the room are often the ones who can afford it. Even if you write the most brilliant first season of all time, if the series either wasn't given the proper support and budget to be successful, or was canceled before it received a second season, you're going to be out of work and starting all over again. Now imagine every other writer is going through the exact same thing, and they're all looking for work as well. The competition has never been more fierce, and the only ones who'll be able to make it to the end of the race are the ones who won't need to drop out partway because they need to pay their rent. The current streaming production model doesn't support creatives as it looks to expand and make even more content. Some of the best talents are having to leave the industry because they simply can't make a living wage. Time will tell if the writer's strike changes things, but from our outside view, it doesn't look like giant streaming companies will adjust. Netflix has famously been blamed for the death of Blockbuster, and it's not hard to see why. Would you rather spend $5 on a movie you'll watch once, or $10 on an entire library of movies and shows that you can watch without ever getting up from your couch? Okay, don't answer that. Some of us definitely miss Blockbuster, especially after Netflix made a series about the rental shop. And in a beautiful reflection of our TV reality, it was terrible. But what does Blockbuster have to do with the quality of movies and shows degrading? Let's look at the economics behind producing a movie for a moment. When you're funding a film, only 50% of your budget actually goes towards production. The other 50% goes towards advertising. So if you have $50 million, that's actually only $25 million to cover your production costs. That's everything from your equipment, locations, talent, set construction, transportation, catering, crew, and so much more. When it comes to, actually, it might be best to let an expert explain it. Over to you, Matt Damon.
The DVD was a huge part of our business, of our revenue stream, and technology has just made that obsolete. And so the movies that we used to make, you could afford to not make all of your money when it played in the theater because you knew you had the DVD coming behind the release, and 6 months later you'd get a whole nother chunk. It would be like reopening the movie almost. And when that went away, that changed the type of movies that we could make. I did this movie Behind the Candelabra, and I talked to a studio executive who explained it was a $25 million movie. I would have to put that much into print and advertising, right, to market it, what we call P&A. So now I'm in $50 million. I have to split everything I get with the exhibitor, right, the people who own the movie theaters. So I would have to make $100 million before I got into profit. And the idea of making $100 million on a story about like this love affair between these two people, yeah, I love everyone in the movie, but that's suddenly a massive gamble in a way that it wasn't in the 1990s when they were making all those kind of movies, the kind of movies that I loved and the kind of movies that were my bread and butter.
It's not just Blockbuster, it's the entire downfall of physical media. Production companies used to rely on DVD sales and rentals to offset any money lost at the box office. Now, that revenue barely exists. That's not to say movies and TV shows can't be profitable. It's just more of a gamble than it's ever been before. And if there's gambling involved, the people funding those projects are going to minimize the risks wherever possible. In other words, they're going to produce low-cost content that appeals to the broadest audience possible. That's why there's lots of this.
These crews would have been fighting for their lives in the fight of their lives.
This is a bowling ball. And this is a cake. What?
And this.
It's one thing to be emotionally vulnerable on camera, but to be sexually vulnerable, we've never really seen this before.
Okay, we got here because Netflix is a publicly traded company with an expectation to grow year over year. It's a service that needs infinite content at a low cost. Risking money on a film like Beasts of No Nation was something Netflix could do early on because they were scaling up and willing to take a loss if it meant earning new subscribers. But at the point where you're losing subscribers, not turning a profit, and spending billions a year on production, it requires revisiting your approach, especially with the enemies at the gates. Netflix produces 3 types of content: flagship, legacy, and filler. Flagship content is meant to bring in new subscribers. Think Wednesday or Arcane. The shows that everyone seems to be talking about each season makes you want to be part of the moment. They're well-funded, unique, and closely associated with the platform's brand. They make up a small fraction of the total content on the platform and often don't appeal to everyone. Then you have your legacy content. These are your traditional TV shows that Netflix purchases the rights to so that they can keep viewers subscribed, thanks to the quality of their overall library. These could be already popular sitcoms like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, or series with a built-in audience like The Walking Dead. When you finish binging the flagship content, this is the stuff you fall back on. And then there's your filler. These shows are meant to fill out the library and provide content that appeals to as broad an audience as possible, while still reaching niche groups, such as specific regions. These are the shows we talked about before: cheaply made documentaries, reality shows, and dramas. It's not that Netflix isn't aiming to make good content, but the reality is not every show and movie can get the same level of attention. And if you're going to be spending $100 million on an adaptation of a graphic novel, but you still need something for the people with no interest in fantasy content, then a $1 million dating series that has a chance to go viral might be your best bet. At the end of the day, just like every other production company, Netflix is only willing to make art if it's profitable. It's an industry that favors profit over product. In the words of TV critic Andy Greenwald, every writer wants to write Barry, but no one watches Barry. Except I watch Barry. I love Barry. It's really good. Yeah. We're past the breaking point. With dozens of services, subscriptions within subscriptions, and content with an ever-lowering bar of quality, something has to give. Or you need that raise you keep asking your boss for. Still, that doesn't mean you're out of options. Streaming, while definitely the villain of this episode, does still offer some better ways to save money compared to an old school cable or satellite TV, since at the very least, you're not locked into a contract. It's more economical to wait until entire seasons are available, and then only subscribe for as long as it will take you to get through them. Companies bank on you sticking with a service so they can get your membership fees every month. But savvy viewers can likely subscribe to each major streamer for a month or two every year and catch up on all the headlining shows. With that in mind, apps like Rocket Money or even Notes can be a great way to keep track of your active subscriptions and better determine what you can cancel. Just Watch is also a handy resource to see where movies and shows are currently streaming, which can help you plan your subscriptions each month. Also, this is a small step, but taking in the evening to make a list of the shows and movies you want to watch and then sticking to it can help you spend less time mindlessly browsing random apps and more time feeling like you're in charge of what you watch. Plus, only having one streaming service at a time is a lot cheaper. And not to mention ourselves too much, but there is some great entertainment reporting on MobileSyrup.com that can help point you in the right direction if you're looking for content in Canada. Fast channels are also a cost-effective option. Short for free ad-supported streaming TV, these channels allow you to stream without a paid membership. While you won't get hot new original programming, lots of channels have surprisingly solid back catalogs. The likes of Degrassi, The Next Generation, Happy Days, and CSI, and can be found on Pluto TV. These types of platforms are available on a variety of devices, including the web, mobile, and lots of smart TVs. Finally, if you can't find any fast channels you like, you can head to your local library. Many have access to online content or local rental options. If you're a sports fan, you're probably in the toughest spot of all, since these streaming services tend to have some of the highest prices and the most ads on screen out of anything you can watch on TV, period. Honestly, it's a tough world when sports are also suffering from viewership declines, even with huge stadium shows, the ultimate monetization scheme, and really clippable content that fits well on social media. However, compared to the glory days of Netflix, streaming is so fractured now that it's hard for consumers to keep track of all the new shows and where they're playing. It's different services all the way down, and unfortunately, we can't fix that. And the way Hollywood's economy is looking doesn't seem like it can be fixed in a way that benefits consumers. I once heard a line on a podcast from Colin and Samir where they theorized that TV and media is in a constant state of bundling and unbundling content, and peak Netflix was a great bundle. But since then, everything came apart, and now we have too many disparate services, which almost makes it impossible to have everything. This really leaves us with not what happens next, but who goes next. Blockbuster may have been the first victim of the rise of Netflix, but it certainly won't be the last. Until we find a sustainable means of producing content, prices will continue to rise while the quality falls and the shows spread out over more and more services. It wasn't password sharing that broke this relationship, Netflix. It was you. Thanks for watching. I'm Tasha the Amazon, and I will see you online. If you like this episode, make sure to check out my other Tech Effect episode on phone usage. Peace. I'm sorry, but if you It didn't judge us for watching all 3 seasons of Avatar: The Last Airbender for the 3rd time that year. I kept on thinking that the sentence was gonna end. And it was even there when we brought a cute person over. Let's talk about Hollywood. Over to you, Matt Damon. It's Matt Damon, right? Yeah. Okay. Or you need to raise, and then sticking to it can help you spend the time. Well, why? Why? I can't use the words. Fade to black.